www.offthecorner.net. You're watching the Fact Project here on the DJ Tiger channel. FACT is an acronym that stands for Fundamental African-Centered Thought. The goal here on the Fact Project is to convey some facts and some information to members of our community. We have joining us activist and all-around long-distance revolutionary, Brother Kwabena Rasuli. Peace, Brother Kwabena. Thank you for joining us today, brother.
All right, Grand Rising, brother. Good to be here with you, as always, Brother Ra.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so you're the face of the Clear the Airways Project. You're involved in a lot of other activism as well. But in the last handful of months, you've also been leading the charge against Netflix. Now, for the people that may not know, because there's still some people that don't really understand that there's a boycott going on and we have new viewers all the time. How did this campaign against Netflix begin?
Well, they started it. they put out a trailer for a reboot of Good Times. Good Times came out in 1974, the sitcom with JJ and Thelma, of course, James Evans, the father, Senior, Florida, Esther Roll, and of course Michael, the main characters, and Sister Walona, and with my homegirl Janet Jackson on there at times. Got a chance to be a regular on the show, but it came out 50 years ago, so they decided they wanted to do a reboot of it, and they came out. It was animated, and when they came out with the trailer back in March, it was horrible. It was basically horrible. Practically nobody liked it. Well, 10 people, 9 of them didn't like it. I mean, it's still the same today. So it was just laced with some of the worst stereotypes that you can depict the people as, and and people didn't want it when the trailer came out. People saw it, looked at it, and the trailer at one point had like 400 likes, but 4,000 dislikes. So people just didn't want it. And that was in late March. And then here we come into April 12th, and they launch it anyway. They don't care. And then once they got launched, people saw the episodes, they critiqued it. There was very few people who liked it, but yet they still kept it out there. They put it out there, and it's just horrible. It's a animated beyond minstrel sitcom. And that's where we are. So there was a lot of disdain, a lot of podcasts, just a list of podcasts just wouldn't stop, and people debating and talking about it who didn't like it. I even always think about Stephen A. Smith. He had a whole segment on it, dogging it out, trashing it. Jason Whitlock, who they usually go at it all the time, he had a segment on it, dogging it out, trashing it, getting on Steph Curry because he's one of the executive producers. And yet Netflix didn't care that it's how offensive it is to African people, and they kept it out there. It's still out there now.
Okay, now let me ask you this: if for this to make the air or to make that streaming outlet, this has to go through a lot of red tape. How do you respond to the big wigs in the suits telling us that this sort of deplorable content that depicts us in such a disagreeable way is what we want? How do you respond to that?
You just show them. Basically, one of the main things you can just look at is, again, the number of podcasts, number of people who are speaking against it. If you just look at, I mentioned the numbers earlier about if you look at 10 people, 9 of them don't like it. It was up a couple months ago. And when you look at the trailer, it still had like about close to 8,000 people gave it a thumbs up. 8,000 people gave it a thumbs up. But if you look at the thumbs down, it was 80,000. 80,000. So the people did not want that and still don't want it. And they see this, so they see it and they know it's not good for our people, but they don't care. We got to make them care.
Obviously, we have joining us educator, activist, co-chair of CMOTAP, African Center Doctor of Psychiatry, Dr. James McIntosh. Peace, Dr. James McIntosh. Thank you for joining us today, brother.
Peace, brothers. Glad to be here with you.
Yes. I'm glad to have you on.
Doc.
Brother Kwabena was just briefing us on how the campaign against Netflix started. You want to chime in on that?
Yes. I mean, I think that the campaign for Netflix started before I even heard about it. There were people who had seen the initial trailer and saw that the trailer was trash. And the trailer had basically a few, consisted solely of negative messages and images of Black people. There were people who had noticed that it had, which was hard not to notice, that they had babies shooting machine guns and babies selling drugs, had a Black man whose facial structure they had made resemble an ape. And in case you didn't pick it up, they showed you a scene of this man having sex with a Black woman, and the shadow they made look exactly like an ape, but the structure was like an ape already. It had a small cranium and a large mandible, it looked kind of like Magilla gorilla. It featured, God reaching his hand from heaven to hand a cell phone to Black Jesus, who answered the cell phone, who that, when people called, or no, who this, pardon me, who this, when people call, in the manner of Mantan, Moreland, who that, say who that when I say who that, and that sort of thing. And just a bunch of negative images in it and negative messages in it. Had a father telling his children that he was dumb for not using a condom when they were born, and that sort of thing. Just a lot of foolish antics and negative images. We actually thought that it could never get any worse, but there were people who had already written to Netflix. There was even one supposed demonstration that had been organized down at Netflix on the West Coast. And so by the time we found out about it, it was late. But as soon as we found out about it, there were several petitions online. We encouraged people to sign those petitions, and we called an emergency meeting in which we brought a couple of hundred people from around the country, including Maulana Karinga, Malefi Asante, Brother Browder, a bunch of people, activists and dignitaries from around the country, to talk about it and to map out a strategy, which we did. And so that's how we first found out about it. And initially, we were telling them hey, it was just before the series was going to run. I think the series might have been scheduled to run around April the 12th. Brother Kwabena can correct me if I'm incorrect, but somewhere around that date. And just before it was going to run, we had this emergency meeting, and we told them not to put it out. We sent an open letter to them telling what was wrong with it to Netflix. And basically, we never heard back from Netflix. They released it. They didn't only release it; they released all 10 segments of it, and so the fight was on. Now that's the beginning. I don't know what else you want to ask, but I'll just tell you that since that time, people have been releasing slowly on YouTube and other outlets like that, because the first thing we said was, hey, cancel your Netflix subscription if these people release this movie, and they released it. So a lot of people canceled their Netflix subscriptions. But then what we said was to, excuse me, then what we said was to, we listed about 6 or 7 different things they should do to write, to get their various organizations to support this boycott of Netflix. And they just continued. They never responded. So we had demonstrations, and we went down and, to their headquarters on both coasts, the West Coast and the East Coast. And it brings us to today, where the people who released small segments of it on YouTube showed us segments that were far more horrific than the trailer. And I'll stop there because I didn't mean to just go on and on.
Oh yeah, no. That's fine. That's fine. Now, Dr. McIntosh is an African-centered doctor of psychiatry. You're very good at analyzing and determining what the messages were that they were trying to convey in the cartoon. And there were 7 ideas or messages that they were trying to convey in the cartoon. What were those 7 ideas?
Okay, well, just off the top, one of the messages is that we were ugly. Very negative images. And then when the images from the actual trailer came out, from the actual series came out, we saw that they used the same techniques they use with the cartoons. When they have an animal that they want to make beautiful, like they have a pig, they'll put long blonde hair on the pig. And now that's supposed to be the female pig, and it's supposed to be beautiful. When they have a duck, Daffy Duck's wife, or Daffy Duck's girlfriend, they'll put a long straightened wig on Daffy Duck's wife, and now the duck is beautiful. And you've seen them do it with Roger Rabbit and things like that. But now what happened is that we saw some images. Some of the images of the black women they made were just absolutely hideous. And they put long, in order to beautify them, they put a long, reddish kind of a wig on them, and that's supposed to make them. So one of the messages is that we were ugly. A second message is that we were stupid. And so, you have a boy saying that the daughter telling the son that he looks at a milk carton for a half hour every morning or more, 45 minutes or whatever. He says, well, it says concentrate, on the orange juice carton, that sort of thing. Stupid. The father, saying this thing about it, he's the dummy for not wearing.
Good morning. How are you?
That we're ugly.
Oh no,
stupid. That we have nothing sacred that they're bound to respect. They took all of the main images of that black people use. Not all of them, but most of them that black people use to make contact with the divine. They had white Jesus discarded on a thing on the floor, and a trash heap that part was flooded. They had black Jesus just with the behavior I described a few minutes ago. They even had a non sequitur sort of a scene. I don't know how it is in the actual film. We just saw it in the trailer. No one has put the scene where I could see the context. But they had Yenapu, the ancient African god from ancient Kemet, actually in the middle of this junk, in the middle of this foolishness. So once you start dealing with white Jesus and black Jesus, well, you're talking about Christianity, you're talking about Islam, because he's a prophet in Islam. And once you start using the ancient Kemetic gods, obviously, you're insulting us there also. So that we have nothing that they told us that we were criminals from birth by having a toddler selling drugs. And later we found out in the act, because everything we analyzed was from the trailer. Ultimately, we found out that they had the mother giving the toddler a gun as he went outside. I don't know, is it when they were kicking him out or whenever he's leaving the house? she's giving him a gun so he won't be unprepared out in the street, a toddler. And then you have scenes with them shooting them at each other. So the other message was that black people were violent. I told you the other message with the gods and everything was that black people had nothing sacred that they're bound to respect. And ultimately, all these things lead to the conclusion that we're worthless and that we deserve to be killed, that we're lewd, crude, socially unacceptable, and that we need to be killed. Those may not be the exact wording of the messages that I may have used in the original documents, but that's the essence of what the messages were that they were projecting about us.
Now, Dr. McIntosh, I'm not a Christian. I'm not in the church, but they did depict an unseen God from reaching down from the sky with the cell phone, and God had 2 different color fingernails. How do you interpret that?
Lavender and it's the steady agenda that they're doing. They basically try to impose their cultural the things they've come to over time, because they didn't always have these views also, but the views they've come to over time, they involved gender confusion and that sort of thing. And what we would term gender confusion, but they have said that this is they have a different feeling about it. And not only do they have a different feeling about it, not only do Europeans and Americans, white Americans have this feeling about it, they feel that they should force it on the rest of the world. They will tie their U.S. aid to different countries on the basis of other countries accepting that from them. So the message is implicit when you have a black hand with a lavender and a turquoise fingernail. I think it has something to do with that. That would be my interpretation of it. Others might interpret it differently.
Understood. Brother Kwabena, there were 2 demonstrations that Dr. McIntosh mentioned, one in New York and one in LA. What can you tell us about the turnout of those 2 demonstrations?
Turnout was righteous. I was looking at some of the footage and some articles from the New York demonstration on last night that took place, and Dr. McIntosh can mention the numerous organizations that were represented there along with CMOTAP. I was present in Los Angeles where we demonstrated. We had former Black Panthers. We had members of course, CMOTAP West. Look, I even had one of my elementary school classmates show up.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, my brother was there too. So just, and we were on the corner of Sunset and Vine, right there, right by the Hollywood freeway. And they have offices on 2 sides of the street. And, people were just, and there's footage out there of it. People were just upset. And so Netflix has to know, they know, of course, they saw the numerous podcasts and the people who don't like it and didn't want this, but they just, again, don't care. They hadn't respond. So we gave them letters. We talked to some of their people coming in and out. So the turnout, as always, we should have had thousands of people out there, but they got the message. They know what was up. They know that we do not want this. And, when you think about, I watched a lot of these reviews and podcasts about this. And again, pretty much all of them were negative. But there was one with this white dude and a brother on there. And they were both didn't like it in a way, but the white dude said he loved the James Jr. character. He loved it. As he started it off, I'm like, okay, really? You love this minstrality. You love somebody acting in this manner. And I thought that was significant.
Okay, now there was a petition to sign that was floating around also. And I know CMOTAP has done some Zooms. What has been the response to the petition in the last couple of months?
Well, thousands have signed it. I haven't really taken a look at the petitions most recently. But what I'll say is that yesterday, that what Kwabena saw was not a demonstration. It was our 37th anniversary, and we had a lot of people. Had several hundred people. I actually have a picture I can show of that.
Okay.
But the demonstration is actually tomorrow, Tuesday, the 19th. There were other pieces that spun out from this, because we ended up writing to the commissioner of the NBA, because as you remember that when Kyrie was suspected of having tweeted a link to a movie about a book that certain Jews said was anti-Semitic, that he was pilloried. The owner of the team, Joseph Tsai, said he was going to donate $500,000 to, and presumably was the ADL, he was saying groups that were against hate. Jonathan Greenblatt, the owner of the team, and the commissioner of the NBA, uh, Silver, Adam Silver, where they demanded of Kyrie that he apologize. And when he didn't apologize initially, they suspended him for 5 games. They suspended him for 5 games and actually had pushed him to the point where he was saying he was willing to donate $500,000 to the ADL, talking about $500,000, right? So this was what they valued an insult of a tweet about, that they linked to Jewish people, okay, to European Jewish people. And so we're saying, well, look, how is a tweet worthy of 5 game suspension, and you were willing to accept up to $1 million pretty much in fines, self-imposed fines, then what is producing a movie that shows all the things I said? And as I said, since the video has come out, we found out that it has a scene of a young girl where when her first period comes, her mother tells her that if she wears a tampon, she'll become a whore. Therefore, she puts a diaper on her. The child wears the diaper to the school, blood leaks all over the floor. The child takes blood, writes on the blackboard with it. And again, the message that we're stupid. She's 12 years old, but the problem which she solves on the board is 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 equals, this is it, 12 years old. And then she takes the blood and starts flinging it. We're talking about a child flinging menstrual blood, black child, and then eventually throws her with a large splat in the face of a black boy. Now, how do those images and those things compare to a tweet? And why is the commissioner silent on this? If he didn't know, well, we wrote him, so now he knows. Why is Joseph Tsai silent on this? Why is the ADL silent on this? Well, they're silent on this because this is right along with the agenda. But I just want to emphasize that this particular image of the girl throwing blood in the boy's face is significant in the context of their religion. So in other words, the only insults they're concerned with is insults to Jews. But their Torah says that if a woman has her menses, I don't believe this, but they believe this. They believe she's unclean for 7 days. They believe that if a man touches her, he's unclean for the same amount of time. So now, with that as their belief system, and understand that there is a Jewish producer, in addition to Steph Curry, Norman Lear is really, probably the lead person in this. Norman Lear is of that religion. If you believe that, how do you feel it's okay then to make a cartoon with a black girl throwing menstrual blood in a black boy's face? And then if that's not enough, they have a dream sequence or something with the mother and the daughter riding on a gigantic tampon with another black woman they call the Queen of the Uterus on a river of blood on a gigantic tampon, past sperm balls. All right. How is that, by anybody's standard, decent and appropriate material to be broadcast on TV, to put in a cartoon, which of course is going to draw children to watch it? Why? How is that? And then after that offense is committed, why is that not something that the commissioner of the NBA cares about? If his ball player is a producer, how is it something that Joseph Tsai doesn't care about if he's a producer? We really wanted to wait for a game which Steph Curry appeared in before we went down there, but it was taking so long. It's not until next year. Since the season opened, we said, hey, we'll go down there because we got beef with them too. We don't have to even wait for Curry. We got beef with Joseph Tsai for making Kyrie Irving apologize. We have beef with the commissioner for making him apologize. We have beef with both of them for suspending him for 5 games and remaining silent on Curry's failure to, on Curry's production of this particular thing, and the commissioner's failure to sanction him in any way. Now we're saying, Master, you whip this one, whip that one. That's not our point. Our point is he should apologize. Why haven't you taken the same actions with him that you took with Kyrie Irving? Even though Kyrie Irving's were unjustified, but you felt they were justified, you did that. Now, if that's justified, how do you take a person actually doing the most vile thing according to your Torah? You're saying somebody's unclean for 7 days. That's a lot of uncleanliness. Obviously, scientifically, we know that menstrual blood is nothing but the blood that the woman's body has prepared for the expected fetus, and when it doesn't arrive, it has to be discharged. So that's a part of their religion, this making the woman unclean for a certain number of days and that sort of stuff. So that's not ours. But since it's yours, we interpret the insult from this perspective of what you meant when you did it. Malcolm X said, how do you judge a person? You judge them by their conscious motives. So your conscious motives were to display somebody throwing on somebody the thing that you think is the worst thing in the world or the dirtiest thing in the world. So we take the insult by how you meant it. Although throwing any body fluid on anybody in the age of AIDS is also insulting and disgusting and not something to be put on TV, and especially put on something that children will take a look at. We're down there. I'm sorry, Brother Kwabena. We're going down there. We have multiple organizations that are joining us. We had a Black Solidarity Day rally. Had hundreds and hundreds of people, and everybody's pledging to support. And so we're going down there with more troops this time, down to the Barclays Center, and we have something to distribute to the fans. After Brother Kwabena goes, if you have a moment, I can share with you the flyer that we put out, because it has some of the images that we're protesting.
Absolutely, yes. Brother Kwabena, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, because when you were talking about how this is, they're throwing their blood on a child. This isn't a probably junior high school setting, whatever, where you're throwing this blood. It's just ridiculous that they would do this. But when you look at what Netflix was putting out, and what Steph Curry even talked about the one time when we did see that he was interviewed after a game and checked and challenged on this sitcom that he's producing, on this animated sitcom, he tried to claim it was for adults. And that's what, again, Netflix put out. It's an adult cartoon. And like Dr. McIntosh says, and so many others have said, it's a cartoon. Children are going to watch it. They're going to get a hold of it. It's a cartoon. And also, what adult wants to see this type of madness? And the adults have spoken. They have spoken. They have said, again, with these thumbs down, with the much media as we've seen, with people that we talk, telling my mother about this situation with the cycle, and she was like, they can't do that. Simple as that. They can't do that. But they did it, Mama. They did it, and they're going to continue to do that and worse until we stop them, because they're not going to stop unless we make them stop. So that's why this is so important. And Dr. McIntosh mentioned to us earlier in April, or probably late in March, when we were talking to him about this, we thought this was, I be like this a lot. Oh yeah, we're going to put a stop to this quickly. He said, no, this is going to take some time. This might take some time. And as you see, probably by the middle of May, a lot of the people protesting and talking about it had waned, had stopped. But yet we didn't stop. CMOTEP did not stop. And when we talk about, when I was mentioning the demonstration, I was talking about the demonstration from June that took place in New York and Los Angeles, where we had a lot of people out there. So I wouldn't talk about like yesterday, the program that we had a couple of days ago, but I was talking about June and the amount of people who came out to their headquarters. And again, let them know unequivocally that we weren't playing about this. So that's what we're dealing with. And then on the NBA, I know you're about to show that flyer. Just to continue on the NBA, we saw that on opening night in Atlanta, once again, this is for them several years ago, having 21 Savage on the opening night, talking about having shooters ready to gun you down, ready to gun you down, ready to gun you down on opening night at a basketball game at the Omni. That's what they're doing at the halftime show. And then having Rich Homie Quan, who recently passed away, opening night at one of the basketball games, talking about drug raping, putting a Mickey in a girl's drink at a club, and having the whole set run a train on her. performing this at opening night. And then this past opening night, they had Gucci Man on there rapping, using all kind of vulgar language at opening night. So the NBA, this is NBA. So yeah, Adam Silver and they all need to hear it. Again, when it's disrespectful to us, they're signing or they promote it and push it. But yet, you know, Kyrie, like I said, Kyrie sends out this tweet and all hell breaks loose.
Okay, now you both mentioned the Kyrie Irving situation, and Dr. McIntosh also mentioned that there are Jewish people involved with the production and the distribution of this Good Times reboot. And I guess I can't ask either one of you to speak for them, but how do they justify being so hypersensitive when it comes to themselves and their community and their culture, but it's okay and acceptable for them to be disrespectful to another people's culture?
Well, they basically have told you from the beginning. I mean, if you really listen to them, they're nationalists. I mean, that's why, you know, it's really not their responsibility for them to explain they're being defensive of their own religion and culture. They should come that way. The thing that's bad and hypocritical about it is they profess to be an anti-hate group concerned about bias of all sort towards all nations. That part is not true, and that's what makes it hypocritical. But the fact that they defend Jews, it's been that way from its inception. The ADL was formed when the head of B'nai B'rith was accused in a particular locale. I can't tell you the exact locale right now. The head of B'nai B'rith was charged with molesting and killing a young girl. And so B'nai B'rith, which was an established organization, had been around for quite some time. And I think this was in around 1913 when they did this. But B'nai B'rith was from the 19th century, from the 1800s. So B'nai B'rith, they didn't take it on directly, the issue themselves. They kind of spun off a branch called the Anti-Defamation League, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith. And the Anti-Defamation League came to the defense of this person because he had been accused, not for any other reason. He was convicted, and they were going to execute him, and then they were able to, through appeals and the legal process and everything, get the execution overturned. They got the execution overturned of this child rapist murderer, and the people in the area weren't having it. The people lynched him. So when they talk about it, they tell you that they were formed because he was lynched, but they weren't formed because he was lynched. They were formed before. He wasn't lynched till like 2 or 3 years later. So like they formed in 1913. He wasn't lynched in 1915. They formed because their leader had been caught and convicted of being a child rapist murderer. So that's their, from the very beginning, their cause was totally in their self-interest. It was not, that their self-interest trumped everything else, every other community standard, every other standard of decency. Their loyalty to each other, or loyalty to their religious ethnic group, trumped everything else. And then, but obviously, they become they have hundreds of millions of dollars, not millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. They do a lot of public relations, and they have it in the minds of people that they are a civil rights group. But this was all exposed in the early 90s when a search warrant issued at their headquarters in San Francisco, which was really around a financial matter, uncovered materials that showed that they were spying on thousands of organizations that had nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Organizations like Black United Fund and all kinds of organizations, that they had a network of spies called fact finders who worked in newspapers all around the country. And these fact finders could put an article in the paper anytime they wanted. And that these people also dealt with foreign governments. They would actually sell some of the material to foreign governments.
Wow.
One of the people that they had in there was Chris Haney. Chris Haney was a South African activist who actually got murdered after this. And then, not after the 90s, but after they had his documents. They even had a blueprint of some, of one activist's house or one professor's, of his office. You wonder, what do they have this stuff for? They had connections to law enforcement. They had a guy named Gerard who was in connection with their fact finders. And Gerard, they looked in his locker, and he had blank death certificates. He had IDs from police departments all over the world, including the Philippines and down in Central America. He had pictures of people who were like chained or in bars with no identification as to where they are. You don't know where these people are. Wow. And he was, clearly. And then they also uncovered that they had traded information with the Union of South Africa. And so that's where Chris Haney was killed. So they came under a big smear in San Francisco. And then the other thing that was exposed is that the head of their fact finders was here in New York, a cat named Erwin Swall. Nothing anybody could do. All the activists in New York tried to get Morgenthau, the district attorney of New York, to investigate. They would never investigate them. You know that their branch on San Francisco was doing all this stuff, and the guy who was heading that whole network is here in New York, and you won't even do what they did in San Francisco, issue a search warrant and go in and take a look at the place.
Wow.
No telling what they would have found.
Yeah, right.
Well, there is telling what they would have found, because see, it's a lot of things that were mysterious. Sometimes when after certain information comes out, you say, "Oh, that's how they did that." Mm-hmm. When a magician does his tricks, and then all of a sudden they show you from the other side that he had something up his sleeve, and that sort of thing. You say, "Oh, that's how he did it." Well, that's how Jesse had a baby that was 6 months old. See. In other words, Jesse Jackson had a child, outside of wedlock with somebody, but it was a secret. Nobody knew. But then at the time that he's ready to schedule a protest march in Washington about the theft of an election, I think it was probably back with Gore, headlines all over the place about this baby. See, that's what that's what having fact finders placed at all the newspapers around can do. At any given moment that you want to character assassinate any black leader, they have the mechanism to do it. And you don't have the mechanism to defend yourself against it. We don't have the mechanism to defend. And they can take a person with the most pristine record, and they'll make it appear in all the newspapers at the same time. And that person's toast. Jesse Jackson makes a comment when he was running for president. He said, I think he used the term Jaime Town. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they never let him live it down. They made it. Understand, this cartoon that we're talking about is not even on anybody's radar. No. He used the word Jaime Town. And this cartoon, they used the N word. Wow. They used the B word, not a P. Jesse Jackson says Jaime Town. And they tanked his political career.
Yep.
Now, Dr. McIntosh, I saw you or heard you on another outlet, and you were talking about the ADL and this thing about the spying, which I was unaware of. Do we know if they're still spying? Can we assume that they're still spying?
Do you think that Spitzer is still seeing women? Spitzer was our governor who got busted taking a 20-year-old across state lines and using us. It died with that. The man never did a day of jail time. He prosecuted people for prostitution. He got caught with a prostitute. Now, if you are so driven that you're the governor of the state and you have to go out and get a prostitute, smuggle across state lines and sneak her into a hotel, you're driven because that is something that's self-destructive. Mm-hmm. But he did that, and you never heard about another prostitute until he tried to extort one. Until he sued one for trying to extort him.
Yeah.
And then she went to jail, not him.
Wow.
So do you think that Spitzer has stopped? Not as long as they got Viagra. I don't think he stopped. I mean, he may have, but I wouldn't think he stopped. So does a leopard change its spots? No.
No.
You have a multi-million-dollar spy operation, and now you stop.
Yeah.
How do they know what Kyrie tweeted?
Mm.
How do they know what Kyrie tweeted? How do they know what another player did on his video game? On his video game, he used a slur for Jewish people, and they were on him. They fined him $50,000. They're looking at your tweets. They're looking at your emails. They're looking at who knows what they're doing.
Mm.
There's a book that claimed, and since this happened to me, they're my number one suspects, that at times they'll break into a person's car repeatedly. That happened to me at the time I was writing those articles about exposing the spy network thing. So do I think they stopped? No, I don't think they've stopped. You know, I could be wrong. You know, maybe Spitzer's not seeing prostitutes anymore. That's a possibility. I doubt it.
Okay.
You know, he ain't got nothing to lose now. He's a private citizen. At that time, he had everything to lose and still did it.
Yeah, that's true.
So
now, Brother Kwabena, we're going to come back to you in a minute. But Dr. McIntosh, we had here in New York City at the Barclays Center a few years ago, some of our Hebrew Israelite brothers put on a demonstration. What can you tell us about that? Well, I mean, it was a beautiful thing. I mean, those brothers were organized. They had a staging area where they got together. I actually saw them in the street while I was, before on their way to organize. Bunch of brothers, hundreds of them. And they marched down there to the stadium. And they say if a tree falls in a forest and there's no one there, did it make a sound? They asked you that question. I mean, it was as if there was no one there. You never saw that on the headlines. That would have been on the headlines. If they'd have been marching against Kyrie, that would have been on the headlines. They were marching for Kyrie.
Yes.
So there was just total silence. And then when they had to mention it, because in the game was going on, they said, "Oh yeah," they say there's about 100 protesters out there in the. If there was only 100, there's pictures of it. You can see them marching. You can count hundreds from the part of the demonstration that you can see. So I don't know how many there were, but I know it was a lot. I know they made a strong stand. It was very powerful, and I know that Kyrie was back, on the team like the next day. Or maybe that was the first day he was back. But they that was a strong message. And that's the kind of, we have to collectively as Black people come out like that to support our own, rather than blame other people for supporting their own, blaming other people for spying. We have to do all of the things that people do in a warfare. Sun Tzu said that an army without spies is like a blind man fighting. He said exactly analogous. Mm-hmm. So, clearly we should be spying on who knows what they're saying in their tweets. Who knows what they're saying in their video games? Who's holding them to task for that? In fact, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because there was an article in the Amsterdam News of a young Black woman who worked for the ADL. And the ADL has an annual celebration. I think it's called the Torch of Liberty or something like that. She says they left from the Torch of Liberty thing and went back to wherever they were going to celebrate and had a minstrel show complete with blackface.
Wow.
You never heard them protesting Al Jolson, did you? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, Brother Kwabena, you and I a while back were trying to track the Netflix stock price to try to gauge to see if the boycott was having an impact with relation to people canceling their Netflix. Do you know anything about where the stock price is now and the impact that the boycott is having on Netflix?
I'm not aware of any update on their stock price. I do know that, when there's so many shows and so many things that they put out. I think, didn't they just do this Tyson Paul fight this past week? I think that was on Netflix.
Yes, they did.
And they're still distributing one made 20 million, other made 40 million. But the thing about this whole piece, one of the programs we had in recent months, Dr. McIntosh, who was showing a clip, and the language they were using was in French. This was a clip from Good Times Animation, and it was in French. So this is something that's going all around the world, and the images of our people are depicted as such all around this world. And that's so sad. When you mentioned the Hebrew Israelites and them being around the Barclays, I thought about, we just had an encounter with them this weekend in Gary. We're doing our Malcolm X lectures in honor of his 100th anniversary of his birth. and we had a program talking about our political prisoners and the prison industrial complex. And I ran across some of the brothers out doing their thing in Gary, and let them know about the program. And they showed up in mass at the program this weekend to hear a portion of this lecture. So that organizational support, to be organized and to show up, is so very important in this piece. But yeah, but I'm not aware of what's happening with their stock prices.
Yeah, I think at this point, we have to be able to work across ideologies and disciplines. We may or may not agree with what the Hebrew Israelites say or what any other group of Black people say, but I think we have to organize because there's strength in numbers, and we're always stronger together than we will ever be separated. And we have people power, but we don't necessarily understand people power because we're not organized. And organized people can do anything, and working together works. And so, salute to the Hebrew Israelite brothers for organizing the way they do. So, Dr. McIntosh, you had penned an open letter to Netflix. You had encouraged people to copy paste the letter and get it to Netflix. How was that portion of the campaign against Netflix going?
Netflix has never responded to anything, no matter how many. If they should respond to even one letter. If multiple people have been sending those letters back, as we know, and they haven't responded, clearly their strategy they embarked upon is to stonewall it. And it's the strategy we encountered with the New York Post when we, before we bankrupted it. When you were asking about the stock prices, I've seen articles to say, I saw one article where they had like one of the worst quarters was when we first started this, and now they have been putting out propaganda to say that they're doing so well. But the New York Post was doing the same thing as we were getting thousands of Black people to stop buying that newspaper. And then ultimately they got busted for falsifying their circulation figures. And shortly after that, they went bankrupt. So if you could share the screen, I just wanted to show something.
Oh yeah, go ahead. You could start to share on your end and I'll let you in.
Let's see. Okay. How do I do that?
You see where it says present at the bottom of your screen? Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah, you click on present and it should take you to share your screen, and then you can pick what you're showing.
Okay.
We're talking to Dr. James McIntosh, co-chair of Simultap, as well as Brother Kwabena Rasuli.
Just now, did anything come up?
No, I haven't seen it yet, no.
Okay, because it didn't give me that as a choice. I didn't see it. I always have trouble with this type of thing. So maybe this is...
You go to present, it has a share screen, you just hit that.
Yeah, I've done that part. Is that I can't, I don't have a selection. I don't, in other words, it's not showing. What I'll do is show the Netflix thing. Now that's something I can show.
Okay.
I'll share that.
Okay, so here we go. I see it now.
Okay, right. If you look at this from left to right, on the top, you see that's the queen of the uterus taking the people, the daughter and the mother on a tampon ride through on a river of blood. Past those little white things are the sperm balls, and then that's the little boy. That's the girl throwing the blood, menstrual blood, in the boy's face. And down on the bottom, that's a little toddler selling drugs to a white man. And then that's Coon Curry there celebrating probably an Olympic win or something. That's Joseph Tsai, the owner of the Nets. That's Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL, the head of the ADL. That's Commissioner Stern. That's Reed Hastings, one of the co-CEOs of Netflix, and that's the other co-CEO of Netflix.
It's interesting you said Commissioner Stern, even though that's Commissioner Silver. But,
I'm sorry.
No, but Stern.
No, I made a mistake.
No, I'm just saying, but the last two commissioners both of the same religion.
Thank you so much, Brother Kwabena. No, the writing is correct. It was me saying the wrong thing. Commissioner Silver, correct. Adam Silver.
Okay, so Dr. McIntosh, Betty Dobson, co-chair of Simultap, wrote an open letter, and she was trying to target the Black church, I would assume. What has been the response from the church?
Poor.
Really? Okay.
Yes. It's hard to get people to operate outside of the patterns that they've been operating in. It probably, I won't blame them so much as I would blame, we really need the manpower to go. I think you get a different response when you have a one-on-one conversation with people and that sort of thing. We've been dancing as fast as we can, but we have to, but really that was just to, I think that among the parishioners, the parishioners have responded to that letter because we distributed that letter openly out in the streets and everywhere, and lots of church people have signed on. Lots of people said that's terrible. And in fact, there were lots of church people where we were, and some of them said they were going to come to the demo tomorrow night, Tuesday night, in front at Barclays. And actually, more so than the demo, we're going out there to pass out this flyer and to pass out information to people, for the fans to just know what's going on. And I think the images speak for themselves. Hopefully, they'll look at them. Probably most people won't even look at it. We've been conditioned to, they've subliminally drawn us to certain images. If I had an image of Puffy or Jay-Z or something, they would gobble it up like it was candy.
Yeah. But
something like this, a lot of people will just take it and throw it away.
Yeah, still so important to do. And again, so the critical mass will see it, and the proper people in media will see it. And, we got it. And this is something that we have to take all around the country. We definitely have to do this in Chicago, the same thing. And just like in New York, the Warriors aren't coming here for quite a while. Won't be, I think, until next year, till they get to Chicago. But there are other areas where we have comrades and people who can take this. I wanted to say something. I see we're about to show this this video, but
yeah, go ahead.
It's about some of the things that their asphyxiation with pests in this sitcom. They have roaches singing the theme song in the shower with the father on this animated sitcom. They have roaches. There's one area or one episode where the apartment floods, just their apartment floods now, and they have roaches floating on beer cans. There's a point where the son, who's having trouble again learning, has to go to the 10th grade 3 times and what have you. And so they go to get some medication for him, and they get it from the rapper Chief Keef, the so-called father of this drill kill black people music. He's depicted because they're in Chicago. And so Chief Keef is there, going to be selling them the drugs they need to help their son become smart. In the midst of him getting ready to sell the drugs, he has a shootout. Then he puts the gun down after that and goes right back to selling them the drugs. So he takes the drugs. He's smart as his sister now, his little sister, the one that they picked it with the menstrual issues. And he bets who's gonna do the best in the test or whatever. So he does. The person who loses the bet, they have to pick the roaches out of the cereal for a whole month. This is the type of crazy stuff they got in there. There's a landlady depicted by Tisha Campbell, by the way, who dies, who gets killed, who falls down the steps or something. And as soon as she gets down the steps, they have rats just devour her whole body, just eat up her whole body. This is just disgusting what they're doing in this sitcom.
Wow. Okay, so I have here Sam Sun and DJ Tiger, who are artists that I work closely with. They did a song to promote the campaign against Netflix. Dr. McIntosh, I'm not sure if you caught wind of this, so I'm gonna play it now. Just give this a few, like 3 minutes. I would like for you to listen and give me your opinion when it's done.
Okay, certainly.
Jimmy Walker came to them and he presented a cartoon about 5 years before this. When the trailer came out, we saw it and everybody was like, no.
Netflix, yeah, you ought to be ashamed. Renata Shepherd, yeah, you ought to be ashamed. Shame. When the original aired, not many look like me on the screen. Black faces far few in between. A black family where the father was rare. Matter of fact, this was the first time Hollywood dared to have a head of the household married with 3 kids. A cinematic accomplishment apart from where they would live. There was Jane, Florida, JJ, Thelma, and Mike. JJ got real popular saying Dynamite! In a heartwarming, hilarious sitcom with a father doing his best and a mother trying to clean up the mess. The oldest son was a struggling artist battling many hardships in the midst of making us laugh. Not an easy task. Their only sister saw education at value. The younger brother was a militant little pharaoh. How can you do a reboot for this? If it ain't right, everybody gonna be pissed. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad. Not bad, beating bad. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good.
There are two roads out of the ghetto. So far, we have managed to stay on the right road.
Word. New cast members are rats and roaches, baby selling crack. Executives hoping that we didn't notice. Yep. Belligerent, bogus, totally unacceptable. Hard deep individual arts less than exceptional. Left the projects 50 years ago. 50 years later, they back in the same building that ain't there no more. Wasn't Florida moving next to Walona? And Delma's husband got a new contract. Show me where they at. Who wanna see this taking 20 step back mentality? In the projects crammed with food stamps and agony. They got an ulterior motive to paint our people as hopeless. The only brothers they wanna see get supported is Jonas. We're tired of the aroma you can smell in the slum. For it to be continued to what was originally done. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. To the vision, our people made a petition to get this nonsense removed from the boot tube. Nah, it ain't cool. How can it even be called a reboot? With ethics in the original, but undercurrent subliminal messages in the new one, along with blunt ignorance. Let's band together, get it removed. Do our due diligence. Hold the creators accountable for the content. In 2024, we won't accept this nonsense. Esther Roller's rolling over in her grave, thinking how was this ratchet animated series ever made?
This is given by the white people, made up by white people. Black community is different. It has a different language and culture altogether.
If you don't talk like we talk, see it like we see it, stop telling our story incorrectly up on the screen. Beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, beating good.
There's so much stuff being offered on television. You got 500 channels with nothing on most of them. You know, repetition of the same old thing. Replications of shows that have been successful. That's become the norm. If a show succeeds with one knucklehead, then let's do a show with 5 knuckleheads. It doesn't work.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah. I think that'll reach a whole audience that I never would be able to get in touch with. And he got a lot of the points in. Actually, the things he said were bad enough, but this film is so much worse than that. Some of these things. I mean, I wish he could have got some of that stuff in with respect to, you know, the stuff with the menstrual blood in people's faces and all that kind of stuff. But it was, I mean, hey, look. It beats this stuff we have out here calling us the N-word, calling us the B-word, and all that kind of stuff. And I think the more young artists that would start doing this type of thing, the more impact it will have. But I appreciate them doing it, and you know, hope we'll try to give them some more material to work from.
Yeah, no, he'll do it. Now, Brother Kwabena, I believe you played that on the radio over the months. What's been the response to that?
Good. And it's again, I appreciate the timing of it, the necessity of it. I mean, I caught the part where we said the cast members are rats and roaches. Like, you know, we just talked about that.
Yeah.
And you know, Michael, young Pharaoh, call him a young Pharaoh. Now they got the young son depicted as a 2-year-old baby slinging drugs. They kicked out the house. Mama arming him with a gat, with his Glock before he leaves the house.
We had a flyer. One of our flyers showed the corresponding characters and the change. So you had Florida, who had the afro. Now the mother has a blonde bob, and then you also see her. You know, you never saw Florida in revealing negligee. So you see this one in one of the scenes, and I actually can show you that scene if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the problem I'm having is making it register this. Maybe I should have put slides, because these are some slides where the content.
Try that.
I hit setting. Let's see, settings. No, present. Slides. You have no slides. Okay. Okay. Present, share screen, and hopefully that'll come up as
Share screen.
as
Okay.
an option, but I don't see it so far. I don't see it as an option. They have Netflix War demo. Since they don't have the also share tab audio. No, that's not the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Select the tab to share. Doesn't no, it doesn't give me an option.
Okay.
So maybe it's a window. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see the window now. Okay, well here's one I think you would want to see. This is remember I told you the ADL worker complained. Yeah, in fact, this is all of them. The ADL worker complained of what was going on.
Yeah.
This was when they went and did a minstrel show immediately after giving that award. The young woman, her name was Cheryl Hamilton, I think was her name.
Wow.
So let me just show you a couple of slides, and I'll talk through them. You know, not a bunch of them. I'm going to just show you some of them. Let's see. So we start slideshow, and I'll go from the beginning. Okay, there's the worst of them right there. It's funny. It went to it on its own. I didn't deliver it. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. And when you don't have an insult level, then people will do anything to you. You've got to have something where people know you will respond. Otherwise, it's just not compatible with life. Slideshow. From I guess this is as good as it gets.
Well, you see, I see slideshow up top. You see it?
Yeah, I do, but it doesn't seem to be responding to my. Okay.
You can't click on the other options below that on the left. I'm sure I'm seeing some images.
Yes, that probably will work. But I'm unable to move it.
Oh.
I'm gonna stop it. Let's see. How do I get out of this? I'll hit escape and see if that does it. Escape. I think I can hit stop share. Stop sharing. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We'll try again. Let's just see if that'll work. Present. Share screen. Share screen. And I don't remember which screen I hit to get it before. Yeah, let's try that.
Okay, here we go. Let me see.
This is good enough because I can find it from.
Okay.
No, I can't find it from.
No.
No. Just. Can you see the boy again?
No, we see your emails.
Okay.
Tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay.
November 19th.
That's the most important thing, I guess, is if especially if we love to come down, come help us out some flyers down and inform the fans what's going on. And I'm going to stop my efforts of technology because apparently I'm not that good. Now
yeah, well, you're not alone, so don't feel bad.
Okay, here we go. Here. Okay. And you're probably still seeing a little bit of my emails, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share again. Stop screen. Stop screen. Okay. And then I'm going to try one last time. Share screen. Share screen. Okay. Well, that at least shows the flyer. Let's show the flyer because that will allow people to know. Can they see it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, there you go. So Barclay is located, I think the address is 620 Atlantic Avenue.
Okay.
It's right downtown Brooklyn. And these are the culprits down on the bottom here. And these are some of the images. If you like these images, don't come. But if you think that this is terrible, if you think that calling black people the N-word is terrible, if you think that calling black women the B-word is terrible, if you think that a father telling his children that he didn't use a condom when they were born is terrible, if you think that showing black people a couple, the queen of the uterus and the babies riding past the sperm balls on a gigantic tampon on a river of blood is terrible, girl throwing blood in, if you think it's terrible, come out there with us and let's help inform the fans so they know what their commissioner tolerates from his ball plays. Steph Curry is an executive producer on this, and if Adam Silver could tap dance on Kyrie's head for a tweet, then he needs to do something about Steph Curry producing this horrible and vicious, vile, violent attack against Black people.
So people come out tomorrow, Barclays Center, Tuesday, November the 19th, 6 p.m. CMOTAP and a lot of other organizations are going to be out there handing out flyers. And you could drive. If you can't, you take the train. You could take the train to Atlantic Terminal. And the train will let you out right there. You go upstairs and the Barclays is like right there, right across the street. So I would encourage everybody to come out and support this campaign against Netflix. Come out and support the demonstration. Dr. McIntosh, if you could take some photos and maybe even some video, we could share that next time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would love to share that with your audience. We thank you for having us on. Kwabena, thank you for inviting me, Brother Kwabena.
Yes, thank you both. Thank you both. This is always very profound. It's always very enlightening. We see if we can motivate some people to come out tomorrow, November the 19th at 6 p.m. in front of the Barclays Center. Is there anything else either one of you want to add before we close out?
I just want to say I think it's so important that we mobilize and organize and to stop this, because they're not going to stop it. They're not going to stop it unless we demand and make them stop it.
Okay.
That's part of their agenda. So this is so very important. Appreciate the committee to eliminate media offensive to African people, the FACT Project, Fundamental African Centered Thought, and this organized efforts to fight against this, to battle this.
Yes. And salute to the Clear the Airways Project also. Dr. McIntosh, anything else you want to say in closing?
Well, you know, there are people that they feel that they're so African centered, they get they get almost like the religious right, where they just feel they're above everything. We don't have to pay attention. We just pay attention. No, you can't let somebody project you like this all over the country. Your children are looking at this.
The world.
Your children are eating this stuff. Your children are imbibing this stuff. You can't be above the fray. You can't be above the fray. If you're too above the fray to know that stuff they're showing them, that power is selling drugs, and power, you maintain power by killing each other, you can't be above the fray with that kind of stuff. Because, you know, you're above the fray. Yeah, you're all right, but that's not African. African is collective. Our greatest community is our collective community. I'm paraphrasing Ayikwe Ama. You know, our greatest strength is is us as a collective, not individual. Just because you're safe, just because you're keeping track of your children and not letting them watch this foul stuff, and just because you have them sequestered in a corner, whatever, is that enough? No, that's not enough, because your children have to interact with these other children, and these other children are your children, if you really understand.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, I noticed there's a lot of people who consider themselves to be conscious, but they don't get involved in any activism. And I say, why get the knowledge and information if you're not going to act on it in an effort to transform the condition of your people? That for me would be like buying a car you don't plan to drive. It's pointless. So why stockpile information just to be able to regurgitate it and sound smart, but when it's time to engage in some activism, you know, they don't do it. I don't understand that myself, but we'll end it there on that note. I want to thank you both for joining us, and I'm going to reach out to you both again in the next couple of weeks before the end of the year, so we could do another update on you know, what transpires tomorrow.
Yes, I want to shout out my brothers and sisters in December 12th movement. Say they're going to be there in mass. The NACO, National Association of Kawaii organizations, say they're going to be there in mass. Black Panthers say they're going to be out there. Everybody says they're going to be out, you know, in New York, and we hope that everybody keeps their word.
Yes.
I believe that they have no reason to believe they won't, because they came out to the first demonstration.
Okay. So let's see if we can get more people out this time. I want to thank you both again, and we're going to do it again soon, all right?
All right.
Appreciate you all, brothers.
All right, peace. Thank you.
Peace and blessings.
Peace.